Are we live?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Dr. Unati, your host. Welcome to Dr. M Health Corner Health Show. What is it? Dr. M Health Corner Talk Show. Welcome. It is a Saturday, 11 a.m. MST. Time has changed. It's 7 p.m. in South Africa, and it's 13 hours in the eastern side of my site here. Hello, people are coming on. You know, today it's going to be interesting. You better grab your coffee or tea. We're going to go raw here with my brothers. Invite your colleagues, invite your spouses, invite your brothers. You know, we're talking about men today. I hope you can hear me. Let me know if you can't. Just drop a yes if you can, please. And let us know where you're tuning from. Let us know where you're tuning from. I'm in Canada, in Calgary. My name of the city here is Calgary. I'm in the west side of the country. It is springtime now. I'm excited, and I can see South Africa is getting a little cold. People are wearing jackets, as you can see in front of me. And I'm sure they're envying me now. Hello, my brothers. I have author Khanyiso Xhanti. I want to actually show here our topic. How can I not show it? Today, our topic is about men. I have author Khanyiso here and Dr. Vuyo. We're going to go raw. They're going to take a deep dive on this topic. Please let me know if you can hear me. I'll really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Lebu. She is in Botswana. Thanks for joining us, sis. Today, we actually meet here every Saturday. If you didn't know, we meet here every Saturday at 7 p.m. Southern African time, which is CAT, and it's 11 a.m. MST on my end here. Thank you for joining. Let me know where you at. Our topic, as you can see, we're talking depression in men and also how it also shows up in GBV. We're going to talk about, I have two special guests here. Right to my right is author Khanyiso Xhanti. I'm going to let him introduce himself, and then afterwards, we're going to go to Dr. Vuyo. Over to you, Budke.
Thank you very much, Dr. Unati. My name is Khanyiso Xhanti. I'm an author, a gender-based violence activist. I run two charities. One is called the Eastern Cape Men's Movement, and the other one is called Masincumise Omnye Umntu. Let's put a smile on someone else's face. The Eastern Cape Men's Movement is an organization that has affiliates. Basically, we are an organization that deals with gender-based violence and other social ills. That is your HIV, TB, and any other ill that actually affects our society. Masincumise Omnye Umntu is an affiliate of the Eastern Cape Men's Movement. Under the banner of Masincumise Omnye Umntu, we look after children that are actually affected by gender-based violence and other social ills. So it basically spills over from one to the other. So when I do Masincumise Omnye Umntu's work, I'm also doing the Eastern Cape Men's Movement's work as well. I am an author, as mentioned, as also my name there you can see. I've written, I think, I'm sitting on the 9th title now. My book about gender-based violence is called I Am a Man. The book has also been adopted by Department of Arts and Culture in the Eastern Cape as one of the books that will be discussed in Grahamstown at the Grahamstown Arts Festival. Yeah, what can I say about myself? I'm quite intrigued to be here, and I think I'm going to enjoy myself. Thank you very much, Dr. Unati.
It's always a pleasure to have you, Khanyiso. Thank you so much for the work you are doing. I am so excited to hear 10 years later, when I've been gone, there's so much work that is being done by men in our country, and I'm so hopeful about the changes that are upcoming. And I'm hoping you're not going to just stay in the Eastern Cape. Please spread right through across the country, because we need such services. Thank you for the work you do. To your right is Dr. Vuyo, my dear friend here. Vuyo, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, Unati. Thanks a lot, man, Dr. Unati. I'm loving the advocacy that Khanyiso is doing in the space of men. So myself, I am a general practitioner. However, the space of depression is one that myself I have experienced, right? And therefore, with all of that, I picked one thing, that within men, it is difficult for them to express their emotional pain when it comes to mental discomposures. So perhaps we will not only just talk about depression today. When there's shameful experiences, painful emotionality, psychological traumas, and all of that, men don't speak about that. I saw it firsthand with myself. I did not seek for help, yet there is help around me. So I got somebody who came and became my support, and that was my mother. And then once I understood that, hi man, why should I now not speak out or speak up, yet I've got the platform? Then if I do that, how difficult will it be for other men who are not within the health sector, who to navigate, whilst you know that depression is so deep itself, it isolates you. So I started up a mental matters movement, a mental matters movement called the Mind Zone. Now, this year, we are starting up a men's vitality conversation. Now, in the conversation, we need to go a step further, because I love what Khanyiso has on his side, because they are having already advocacy that's working. But now we need to put up panelists, experts on an annual discussion or conversation where we say that, listen, let us talk about these issues. Then we now go further to say that we are not going to have clinicians sit on the other side of the desk and wait for people to call on what are these toll-free numbers, suicide helplines. That doesn't work, because men don't have disclosure. So they have disclosure issues. So I'm looking forward to having robust discussions in this conversation.
Thank you so much. I actually wanted you to spill what you are cooking, but it's okay. You're not ready to do that. I'm excited actually for you. Thank you so much to our viewers. Today we're going to talk about depression. You had these men, one has first-hand experience, and then Khanyiso has tools to say, hey, I am looking out in the society, all these things that lead to other issues, HIV. He mentioned quite a bit of stuff that we deal with. I'm going to start with you, Vuyo. Before we actually dive into this, what is depression? Because sometimes men might be depressed and not realizing it. What is depression? Because I see in this side of the world, it's the same thing that I saw in South Africa, but here people, they speak up a little bit more. I'm not sure if it's the system, the way it's set. There's more maybe resources. We talk about it, we've normalized it. But yes, men are still behind. When you look at women, they come earlier than men. But men commit suicide more than women, and yet we say on literature women are more depressed. What is depression, Manput?
So depression is a clinical pathology. So depression is a state of mood where somebody is apathic, hopeless, they're gloomy, they're disengaging, but it is a clinical pathology where you need to see a doctor to say that, listen, these symptoms for you are so pervasive that then you need to either have pills that you are going to be taking, or you need to have, according to the severity, perhaps you need to be admitted, because maybe one of the symptoms is the fact that you are thinking about, killing yourself, suicidal ideation a lot, and then that is what depression is. But however, we because then we say this is a diagnosis. There are many men who are outside there, and I then, from the experience of consulting many people, talk about something I call mental discomposures. It's not in your textbooks. So mental discomposures, I feel are such symptoms that are not yet disclosed or diagnosed, such that you have somebody with all of these, and now they even have alcoholism, right? Because they are not coping, right? So now all of these then coin shameful experiences, psychological traumas, but that are not yet disclosed. So I now love to also just put mental discomposures, so that then people also are able to say, because people are not going to diagnose. So that's what I can really talk about in terms of depression.
That's wonderful. And that's interesting. You're talking about shame, because for the longest time, children, we shame them. Raising boys, let's start there. You know, we always talk about this, how parents themselves, they find themselves not advocating for their boy child compared to a girl child. When a boy child is hurting, we start in general, and this is across cultures, we start shaming that child. We don't want them to feel. And then they suppress their emotions. And then we wonder why today we have gender-based violence. You know what, Khanyiso, tell me, what are you seeing in the society? How come you went on and even wrote so many books? I understand in your books, mostly your content is about gender-based violence, how men, they show up in the way Vuyo was mentioning. What are you seeing out there? How did you come about to even form this I am a man? Because why do you have to prove that? I thought you were a man. You know what I mean? That's what perhaps someone who is listening or reading your content, why did you create what you created?
Thank you, Dr. Onati. Basically, it's not a declaration that I'm making that I am a man. It's me trying to accept the danger that I am before I become dangerous. So basically, what I looked at was that, as Dr. Yokwe has mentioned, that we as men don't say anything. We hurt and we become quiet. So basically, when you are depressed, let's say you get to be depressed and you get to be dangerous, like instead of being suicidal, you would then want to kill everyone that's surrounding you, because that's what usually happens. You find a man that just kills himself, he starts by killing his wife and children, and then he ends up killing himself. So at the point where that happens, this man has been hurting. He's been exposed to things that have made him feel shame, things that have made him feel not being man enough. So basically, why I went with a title that says I am a man, it's basically something that I thought about, that I have to put myself on a pedestal and say, hi, my name is Khanyiso and I am a man. This allows people then to be able to talk to me and also allow me to talk about myself, so that I'm able to not feel ashamed of whatever I'm going through, so that people, when they talk to me, I don't feel belittled. Because as a man, or mainly as men, our egos are fragile. We are easily hurt. People sometimes don't mean to hurt us, but because we have, I would say, fragile individualities, then without someone trying to hurt us, they end up hurting us without us knowing. And what that does is that we then tend, because as I said, we are dangerous as men before we have even done something. But once we then are able to deal with that about us, then we are able then to become teachable men, changeable men. We get to also accept our flaws, and in that we are then able to talk about ourselves. Because the biggest problem we face is that as men, we don't usually talk about ourselves. We would rather change the topic and talk about cars and other things. But when someone asks you, how do you feel? We don't usually say what we feel. We usually divert into something else. So basically, the work I'm doing is for us to be able to address us as men, talk about us, so that we are open to, people can change us, and we also are open to the change. Because sometimes what tends to happen is that we get to be defensive and not allow people inside our spaces. And when people try to address us, we feel like they are attacking us. They are making us feel little So basically, that's why I ended up calling the book "I Am a Man," because I'm trying to invite us, everyone, to talk about us, men. And the most important person is us, men. The most important people in the book is us, men. We talk about us, the father-son, grandfather relationship, where we all look at our flaws and get to address them as a whole, not just as individuals, but as a team of some sort, so that if there are problems with one of us, then we are able to deal with them. Basically, the depression point that Dr. Yokwe has mentioned, it's what we are after, because with all the roundtable talks we do, we tend to find out how are we doing. Basically, we ask a question: it's your home. How are you doing? Are you happy? Are you enjoying the environment? What are the things that are making you feel uncomfortable? So that's the space we currently in. So basically, we're addressing a boy child and a man and a grandfather to the men that we're actually talking to. So basically, what we're doing is to link everything so that we can expose the flaws and accept our own flaws, because where it starts becoming difficult is when we are wrong, but we don't want to admit that we are wrong. And even when we are depressed, we don't show, or we don't want people to see, or we don't even seek help, like Dr. Yokwe has mentioned earlier.
You said a lot of things, Xhanti. You did. And I want us to talk about the shame, right? Let's talk about it. And actually, I would like you to hop on with that shame. I'm going to ask a personal question here. We see that men experience the same things women experience: sexual abuse. You know, I have friends who are in film productions. They talk about how they also feel the experiences women feel in that industry. We don't talk about that. There's boys that were molested. Tell me, Khanyiso, are you seeing that in the community? And Vuyo, I want you to hop on and tell me if in your practice, do you ever see men coming in with such history?
Yeah. Unati, my practice does not have as much of men, but it is much more the work that I do outside with the experts and the people I interact with, right? So no one is having that audacity to say, listen, this is a problem with me, because again, it's disclosure issues. And really, I with the people that I talk to, the psychologists, they would tell me that, listen, a problem came, and now we were talking about an issue perhaps of gender-based violence or issue of emotional chaos. Then ultimately we then found the stories that you are talking about. But Unati, just before this, man, there's something that I just want to allude to that Khanyiso has related to: the emotional chaos spectrum, right? That spectrum where he links what could be all of those that you talk about now, those traumas then leading to a depression. But essentially in that spectrum, where on the left side, you've got what society says you should express and suppress, and rather that you cannot express your shameful experiences that we talked about, your painful emotionality. And I like the fact that Khanyiso says that the pain does not go away, right? What you are alluding to, those sexual molestations, they don't go away. Now, the person cannot identify, or they feel that I am hopeless, or I am a person who does not have a say. I am nothing. I am not enough. Now, if that goes on and is something at the back of what a man is supposed to be doing according to what society should say, that's a very huge detriment on the future of that man, right? So whatever relationship they would have with another person, they always get back to them to say, listen, are you now trampling on the fact that it's as if they see that you feel that you are not enough and then you want to fight. That's what Khanyiso is alluding to. And such that if now these topics come and they are not well thought out, and then they think that they are being, now, attacked, right? So that spectrum on the one side, it's got that society says indoda ayikali, and therefore you cannot express these emotions. They need to be swept under the carpet. That causes pain, right? And because you are saying, Unati, we've got issues, traumas, right? And on the right side, there are expressions that now, there are emotions that one can express in order to show that they can be angry, they can be aggressive, right? To mark their territory. So on that one side, you find that now this man does not really care about themselves, because depression does that. It makes you worthless and hopeless, and you don't value yourself, such that you on the one spectrum, you would kill yourself. On the one spectrum, you don't care what you do to the next person. So that violence or that pain does not go away. You can numb it, but it doesn't go away. So I like that connection to say that on the one side, you will ultimately have a man who says, who is violent because society say you can show that as a man, and then you also feel that, listen, I've backed my territory. And then now, if a woman or a partner or a friend or somebody, so I'm not only talking about the isolated violence here, but Khanyiso is going to talk about it, but then other violences as well. I think I've seen in my former university where boys are perhaps very angry, they're killing themselves, they're violent, and then they are testing this against society to say that I can be aggressive. And then on the other side, when they are too much quiet, then at the end of the day, they would want to kill themselves or inflict pain on another person. So I like that kind of spectrum where you say that where does depression meet what Khanyiso is talking about, gender-based violence. So personally, in my practice, I don't see people coming into it, but then it is through interactions and finding cases to say that you don't find them volunteering or disclosing, but however, the pain is there, and there's always that something behind.
Yes, man. You know what? You guys are just beautiful, because we see this all the time. I'll make an example specifically, Vuyo. I asked this question because in my 10 years in Canada, I have one gentleman who told me that he prefers female doctors. And I asked why. Because he was molested by his friendly doctor. His GP molested him, sexually abused him in his clinic.
Wow.
This is a man who's in his 40s. He was 13 when this happened. Like you said, you guys, pain doesn't go away. It gets buried. And then, unfortunately, it comes out in many ways. You become aggressive towards other people. You don't care about yourself. You don't, like, I mean, you look at, let's talk about, Khanyiso, tell me, in South Africa specifically, you guys will agree with me, we are raised mostly by single parents. How has it affected the growth and the mindset and the future of a boy or a man in our country?
Thank you very much, Dr. Unati. What we've encountered or uncovered in our men's cycles is that when you are raised by a single parent, basically you are broken because you don't have both father and mother, whether it's mother only or whether it's father only. So what that does is that you would find the times that you want to be a man, but because you were never taught, say for example, you were raised by a woman, by a mother, by a single mother, you don't know what a man is supposed to be or is supposed to do because you never were exposed to what a father does, right? So when it's your turn to actually become someone's father or to man up, yes, you would find that you come up short. And when that happens, then you want to defend your corner. And sometimes you do that by using your fists, or you try and be aggressive, just so that where your fatherhood or your manliness doesn't get to, your fists will get you to. So that's basically it. So sometimes it happens that because you don't have the both sides, that is your father teaching you how to become a man, you then lack that. And because you lack that, and you'll never want to say, and you know what, I don't know, because as men, one thing that we never want to do is to be known as not having. So when you don't have that fatherly thing, that those values that are instilled in you by a father, if you are raised by a single mother, you won't go around saying to people, you know what, yes, I am a broken man because I never really got the other side of the coin. But when times get tough and you got to prove that you are really a man, you will then, when you come short, you'll actually become violent. What that does sometimes, it gets you depressed because you don't really cope well with the things that you don't really, the ingredients that you don't have in your locker because of what you were not exposed to. What we tend to do is, like I said before, is that we would then defend what we don't have, and so that people don't really see what you don't have, that there's something missing with you. You then end up defending that with fists. Basically, you become violent because you are covering up for your shortcomings. So what we do, basically, we have a program that we call Adopt a Boy Child. So all the single mothers bring their children to us. They are boy children. And we then talk about what it means to be a man, basically. What would that it takes, because it's a process being a man. It's not something that you what can I say, that you can just showcase and then let go of. You gotta be a man on a daily basis. You gotta be, you gotta showcase the qualities, and sometimes that's where it gets tricky, because you don't really know whether you are measuring up or not. And like I said before, at the time when someone exposes that you are actually not actually fitting the bill, then you would start becoming angry and sometimes becoming depressed. We see this a lot, especially with married men, where sometimes they are unemployed, and the unemployment creates problems because they are not providing. And because there are remarks that they usually get, those usually will either turn them violent or will depress them. And when they're depressed, then the only way they blow up and actually end up doing something really bad. So there is a link between us being broken because we didn't get what we were supposed to get from the get-go, and how we then relate to the world at large.
Wow. Wow. Dr. Vuyo, you are nodding your head. Yes, please talk. You know, I know last time we had a conversation and you talked about how also the defense men have with material. I want you to depart from that as you add to what Khanyiso, because you said it beautifully the last time we had this conversation. You start having the material umbrella now, or the blanket to use as a man when you lack these ingredients.
Hey, Khanyiso is doing quite a lot of work. You can see, you know where when a man loses their ability to put food on the table, then they feel really threatened, because now maybe the partner hasn't stopped going and fixing their hair or their face. Then they are going to now be in a survival mode to say, oh, but who's giving you the money now to continue with this? Now there are illusions that are happening in the head to say, I mean, so somebody now is stepping my authority delusionally. Right, and for him it's justifiable, because then he's feeling that pain that he's no longer a man and he's threatened, and that's a very big thing. And by the way, Khanyiso, we are in the one group for all of the listeners. There's a conference that we attempted last year, but then we felt that there were some of the issues that we needed to address. But I actually am surprised that you are doing quite a lot of work with what we also need to do this year. And again, when it comes to that, we still need to get our resources together, because those discussions that you have are very vital. And again, perhaps when Unati to get men to be able to say, listen, I am free, much more free to speak. What Khanyiso is doing, it needs to be taken to another level. We need to get him social advocacy voices, SAVs, but then there's also other social advocacy voices like people who are high profile in our societies, corporate. Now we need to shift it to another stage, and we are going to be talking about what I'm doing. But essentially. That is where the pain is. It's defined. It's what it is. And in fact, the space of depression itself is not the only thing now you see. right? That makes the people to go into a defense mechanism state, into a survival state, and where then now they feel that, listen, if she is not mine, I must be violent, right? So now then that becomes a socially sort of triggered way of a psychological deficit that the man gets. So I was just also picking that as I was noting with Khanyiso, so that there's a lot of work we need to be doing. I'm sure we're going to be touching on it. But now what we also need to do is that we need to have, as I said when I started, that our clinicians need to move out of on the other side of the table to go into. In fact, when we started this, as you recall, we said men's conference. But then as I was also going through this conversation that we are planning for October, we're coining for October, I said, no, listen, they don't want to be commercialized now. They don't want to say, oh, okay, you are commercializing us. You are saying we are a conference, and rather what is going to then be is a men's vitality conversation. And again, we're also not looking at mental alone, so that then many aspects of our other colleagues can go in. There's Dr. Tebelele, there's our many other aspects, including Khanyiso's aspects and what they are also doing. So I was nodding because I am seeing that there's a beautiful stream that's going to, at the end of the day, because we cannot continue to just speak. Now we need to have an accelerated manner of action into how we look into spaces where then depression leads to society. Because again, the toll-free lines are no longer speaking. They're now no longer relevant because nobody's picking up the phone. So that was just another
addition. So you have to bring the conversations to that.
Yeah, get the people who are there. Khanyiso is already doing a good job. So for us as clinicians, we are not going to just sit now only with the pills, because we're not going to chase people with pills, but people need to know that they're human first. So what the societal heritages that we have inherited, that in Dodaikali, we need to see a corporate guy, a CEO who says, listen, I've gone through this A, B, and C, and now I've seen a therapist, I've spoken to people. Once people see their story, hence our theme for this year is going to be creating safe spaces through relatable storytelling. Right, and then also take it to what Khanyiso is also doing with the young boys. So I hope I didn't derail you, but this is just the fact that we cannot continue to only just speak. So yeah.
Yes. Tell me, you guys, fortunately, you come from the same tribe. We are Xhosas. How has ulwaluko affected a boy child? And also, do you think, one time I was actually reading one of my colleagues' posts, and it got me thinking that we have these young boys that go to ulwaluko, whom we already said we have absent fathers. Who is guiding these kids there? Because the reality is there's also a lot of uncles that are struggling with alcoholism. Why do we have, like when I was in South Africa, specifically in December, we had over 300 deaths. So there's so much that our kids are going through. So how has ulwaluko affected boy children in the modern days? And Vuyo, I would like you to also comment on how does the medical circumcision help a boy child today in 2021, in the 21st century? How can it also help a boy child? Because I don't know if this pain going through ulwaluko without anesthesia has not affected a boy child. I want to hear from you, Khanyiso. What is going on there? How are these boys coached? You know, I mean, this process, as far as I know, it needs your father there. It needs your uncle who's going to be present so that we can reduce these deaths we are seeing.
Thank you, Dr. Unati. Under the umbrella of the Eastern Cape Men's Movement, we have what we call an organization called Ithemba Lethu Male Circumcision School. They have a program that tries to actually deal with what you're talking about. Basically, we have a problem of when these boy children go to initiation schools. What they find is that you find the guys, the unemployed guys, the ones that are not really productive, they end up spending most of their times there. And they become a bad influence to those boys. So what we are doing now is that we have tailor-made a program that one, we have to have a list of surgical, registered traditional doctors and their nurses available. So what that means is that we train these guys to be able to know exactly what they're supposed to do. Two, what we do is that halfway through the initiation process, we then introduce people that will talk to these guys. Basically, we call them celebrities, like radio DJs, people like Dr. Tebelele, for example, because they hear him every day. He shows up to these kids and they get excited, like they're talking to someone they usually hear on TV or radio. And he tells them he motivates them about what a man is, what they are expected to become when they get out there. So the program is designed to eliminate the risks that are inherent there. One of which is that because women cannot go there and they get to send their kids there, which means they don't know what's going on there and they don't trust us anymore because of what you just mentioned, that they're usually like 300 kids who actually pass away when they're there. So what we're trying to do is to bridge the gap. We also have another organization called Izibazana. Basically, these are the women who actually send their kids out there. So basically, they come with the problems that they're facing so that we as men can be able to ensure that they are, what can I say? We make them feel comfortable in sending their kids out there. So basically, what we are trying to do is to create an environment that we as Xhosa people know exactly what it means to go to that initiation, what these kids will get. Because somewhere, somehow, we've lost the essence of why everyone has to go there. Basically, I have a book that I've written called The Heart and Soul. This book talks about why it is necessary to actually go through the initiation school, what it brings to you as a Xhosa man, what you get by going there. So basically, it's part of my work to try and ease the burden or the strain of single mothers who actually have their boy children go to initiation school where they don't even know what goes on there. The only thing they get is to just find out that their boy child is dead and they don't know what happened. And we actually want accountability as well. So basically, we want you guys as women to actually trust us, because I feel like at this point in time, we are losing the trust on the whole thing. In trying to mold these boys to become responsible men, we have this program that we run. So as you can see, we are trying by all means to fix the ills, the social ills that are actually plaguing our society. So in essence, we have these things in place, but sometimes because, what can I say, we don't have the reach that we really want to have. But as we've seen from 2020, 2021, and we've really worked really hard to put these things in place, and now we're starting to implement them like gradually. It's gonna take time because some people have actually lost the trusting. So we're trying to gain that back, trying to make them see that there are men who still want to preserve that heritage, you know, that the core thing about Ulwaluko as something that helps us as Xhosa men become proper men who actually are teachable, who actually are changeable, who actually are protectors of, you know, our women and children.
I love it. I love it. I'm asking this because the reality is, I want you to chip in on that. We do see kids losing their manhood. I mean, when I was in training, I witnessed a child who lost his penis, you know, because of the sepsis. And I mean, that leads to depression and these suicides. I wanted to link that. Dr. Vuyo, what are you seeing in the hospital? Are we starting to see more numbers of these kids coming in for medical circumcision? Anything has changed in the medical space?
Yeah, so in Eastern Cape, a particular area that I worked in called Stegspruit, you know, when we refer to Eastern Cape for the accommodating everybody else who's listening. The staunch traditional circumcision sort of culture is based in Eastern Cape, and as such, they are the ones that are really pushing away doctors or the healthcare people to interfere with their tradition. So Eastern Cape is very robust, and it's the whole of the government is always focusing there. The reason because, as Unati is saying, children are dying, sepsis, and they are losing their manhood. They amputate. We at times penile amputations are things that are very common there, and that's also trauma to the person who is going to be growing up as a man, right, in that kind of space. Now, if you think about it, there's a gentleman that I also saw, but I think his penile amputation was ages ago, but now he has been an alcoholic because of that, and he has lost the meaning of life. Now, I think it makes sense now to understand that, listen, something needs to happen. If they don't die, this is the trauma for life. Okay, and I'm very impressed to say that progressively, Khanyiso, with what you also are doing there, Eastern Cape, I feel has evolved. Now, the particular place that I worked in Stegspruit, and they had started long time ago to come to have children being medically assessed and certificates being done. I think the government is now doing that for everybody, but we are seeing early lead and early responses from the people that are guarding these kids to say that if there are these symptoms are coming through, because I understand that male nurses are being sent. Now, I think I love that culminating of different spaces of culture and the Department of Health. But as it is, Khanyiso would have much more inputs or understanding with Eastern Cape, because I know more work in that space now. But generally, during our times, it was terrible. You don't say this, but then you just wake up the other day, the following day, not knowing where one of yours if the initiates has gone to, and you are not told, and that's the last time we ever discuss that kind of thing. And it's a kind of a trauma, isn't it? And when one passes, or when one is going to now carry over that burden of being an alcoholic and someone who loses hope because they don't have men, they will not have a family. That those kind of people. So I understand that the government is doing quite a lot.
Yes,
and I know it's
thank you so much. That's impressive. That's impressive, because it's something we don't talk about, and we wonder why men today are depressed. Things that didn't go well in that process, and then they carry everything you mentioned. So let's give people hope. You mentioned, Dr. Vuyo, that there are medications, and of course there's psychotherapy here. Do you want to share with us here what options people have? You are muted.
So you're talking about options in terms of the depressive
managing depression, yes,
or managing depression. Yeah. So the people would have to go to see their psychiatrists. So there are medications that people need to take apart from just from psychotherapy. We do have that, but then there's another person who actually talked to me to say, listen, Vuyo, we understand that there is always a mechanism of what is this, over-the-counter medications as well, right? So people do know medicines that calm them, so they're self-medicating, and unfortunately, one of the issues there is that if other drugs, and even now recreational drugs, can take part. So we know the one other way we would see somebody is depressed is when they start going into drugs as a method of numbing the pain. So we also have that. So we have the legal drugs where a psychiatrist or your doctor is going to prescribe for you. But unfortunately, we start seeing that even doctors themselves who don't want, like myself, who don't want to disclose that there are some drugs that are accessible to them that really cause euphoria and calm themselves. So doctors as well have a load that this is another topic that we need to look into. So that's the kind of spectrum that we do see.
Awesome. Yes, people need to understand that depression is treatable, and sometimes, some people, they need to be on medication for a long time, or sometimes just for 6 months. Depends on the circumstances or the reason you had depression in the first place. I wish we had more time and more so to explore the other causes, because we talked about the mental aspect of it. Let's talk about the medical conditions we see, Vuyo. Let's talk about people, they have stroke. Suddenly, a man is sitting in a wheelchair. I've seen even in this side of the world where a man sitting in a wheelchair starts becoming aggressive. Shoots. One of my patients had a broken nose because her husband, who's in a wheelchair, threw a cup to her, right to her face. Let's talk about the other medical aspects that could cause depression in men.
Yeah, generally, depression is not going to be caused by psychosocial traumas alone. It's going to be caused by survival and coping strategies. That itself, it becomes a coping mechanism, right? So as you say, that's somebody now who was used to be an alpha male, and somebody now who was a CEO somewhere, and then they are now sitting on a wheelchair. That's as good to men as dead, right? Men will not want to be in that kind of space where they are not now authoritative, right? And this is those are the social aspects of what a man used to society is. How is society going to view him? That's what I want to put in. Once you have got a disease and now you are locked in one place, and for you don't see. You see yourself as worthless and hopeless, and that's depression itself. And you see lots of marriages going down because now I am losing that the spark as a person, because men talk when they've got money, isn't it? Or talk when things are good, and then they show you and they splash and show the family that I provide. But now if that goes away, that their life sort of gets to be dim. Now, depression is exactly that, and it's very detrimental that we don't actually, men don't even want to go or even are not that at ease to go to clinics to look after their health. Because then I remember I had a discussion like this where we're talking about prostate disease, where we're talking about cancer in men and smoking, and I was telling them now that, listen, once you lose everything and once you are paralyzed and therefore you are not available for your marriage, you are not available to provide, you're not available to be that alpha male anymore. And then that was the encouragement I was putting forward for men to say, listen, watch your smoking, watch your habits, watch your day-to-day lives, train, because once that day comes when you are paralyzed and now you are no longer a man, that's going to be the thing for you that may take away your life. And it was for some of the people, they came to me to say, oh no, I can't afford to see myself in that space, because men really don't want to lose their authority as men. So it's important to help them.
Yeah. I mean, yes, it's global. Men die faster than women, and it has other components. I mean, occupationally, men are more involved in high risk occupations, right? And on top of that, men don't necessarily come to us. You said it yourself, as a man, as a male doctor, you'd assume that you have more male patients, but you have female patients, even to my kids. So men, they don't necessarily come in sooner. So this is a call out. If you're watching us, go for screening. It starts as early as 40 years or even earlier than that. Actually, we need to come back and talk about what men need to screen for. You know what, Khanyiso, there's COVID now that hit, and there's also this men must. How has it affected homes right now? Are you seeing more GBV? Because people lost jobs. What's going on in the communities right now? COVID-19 came and changed the whole world.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much once again. With COVID, there was a spike because remember when people use coping mechanisms like alcohol and being out there so that they can run away from facing their own problems. Then COVID hits, and now everyone has to actually be in one space. If tempers flare, unfortunately, anger and everything shows up, because now we are all in small spaces where now we are gonna face each other. Yes, we did get a lot of reports on gender-based violence that was caused by, I would say, as a collateral to what COVID brought, because we couldn't be out there gallivanting, drinking, and so running away from ourselves, basically. So we had to face ourselves. So what then that did was that we then got to do a bit more of introspection, and with that, because we were facing a lot of things, including losing our jobs. So what that meant is that now we had to face reality, and as men, we are not an approachable market. Let me put it like that. So what that tends to happen is that we become more defensive and end up hurting people. So that I think that's why we then had a bit of a spike of gender-based violence, because we then had to defend our habits, because basically now you are sitting there with your wife that you don't usually sit with on a weekend. And yeah, so we then tried to have online things that we try to engage with men, that to try and ease that burden of now they finding themselves sitting in front of the TV and the kids are annoying, the wife is like talking at him, so those kind of things. So yeah, there was a bit of a spike, but I think at least now we are seeing a bit of, I'd say, lesser and lesser cases being reported. What I'm planning to do, because I have Dr. Yokwe and Dr. Tebelele in my stable, I haven't really used them just yet, because I'm busy preparing my men for them. Remember, men are actually an unapproachable market, as I've mentioned. So when you come and say to them, hi, we're going to talk about mental health, they actually become defensive. Hey, you think, or when you say, hi, I'm going to bring someone to talk about our sexual problems, they like, yeah, you think we no longer, yeah. So it's a very delicate situation for us. We gotta try by all means to make them feel comfortable. So basically, when we do these men's cycles, first we gotta sit with them alone before we bring someone who's an expert in a certain field. So what we are busy working with in the background is that we're trying to formulate ways where we can actually surprise them, be like, yeah, this is Dr. Yokwe, he's going to talk about your mental problems. And someone's like, okay. I'm like, no, we're not attacking you here. You're okay, but we gotta talk about these things. We gotta be open about them. So yeah, there's a lot of work that we am doing, but I have to involve them. But I don't want to just throw them in front of these men, because these men are dangerous, man. they might find invasive,
You know what? Actually, Khanyiso, I'm actually thinking in my head, do you know that also, I wish we could also utilize women. We have that maternal energy. Women, we birth boys, we birth you guys, so involve women too in these discussions, to be honest, because I found when COVID hit, my practice changed, Vuyo. I started seeing men calling in. They were even referring others that, I hear that you specialize in mental health. People were desperate to talk to me, right? So, and these men were not even talking to their spouses, to their partners. So utilize women too. There's something about us. Women, when we come with our compassionate approach, and also that energy, you want that feminine and that maternal energy, to reassure, these men, because you need that. Men had too. Boys had too. So you need that too. If you could actually also utilize women, that would be great, teams to bring forth production of what you're doing.
Dr. Unati, I just wanted to ask something before time goes as well, from Khanyiso. When I had this discussion with General Mandu Bongolo Nisa, I said, listen, that I had this interview with him, and then I was saying, listen, we need to talk about issues of mental health. And he says, oh, what in? Says, I'll take stress. So really, it was not something that was very easy. I concur with what you're saying. Now, I also now want to know, with the work that people are doing on the ground, what then are those challenges, or what is the innovative way to get men around? Because I understand that you'd say on one of the days when you are having a conversation, then I'll pop up and then sort of surprise them. Is this when Khanyiso, the thing going forward? I'm sure I understand that now we are going to have a discussion of this conversation now, to say how then do we have that space, that conversation, which is much more of an understandable one, that is going to be with over time, that is over time going to be much more comfortable. What is the best way? Because I've got my way, and my way is, you know, we need people who are celebrities. So the same thing that we are doing for children. We need people who are high profile in the country to start talking. And we want then people from Elokshini, from the rurals, to say, I relate. If Khanyiso, a CEO of XX company, who we regard as this man, a billionaire, talks about the fact that, listen, it's hard, right? And this is what is, you know, that keeps me afloat. And they break down in front of these people. And then we have, because we've got a digital space now, so we've got this campaign where we say, now listen, it is okay for men to be available emotionally, because that's the thing. And the other one thing that I want to put through is the fact that people have got lots of activism, and there's feminism, there's patriarchy, and there's one pulling the other side. So when we are talking of men and mental health and all of the issues of gender-based violence, we want to step in to say that, listen, we know this is not correct, and we need to do something about it. Now, there was no boy child that is involved in activisms or in advocacy that were being done. It was always the girl child, right? Because the society was seen as a patriarchal state. But now we are seeing, when we are reviewing, that there are deeper problems where a man is not available. So I'm not available for my daughter. I'm not available for my niece. I'm not available for my partner, and that kind of thing. And this becomes very difficult for a woman who has a man who they cannot, you know, get into emotionally, because that person is not going to be available. But with all of what we are doing, I think, to the people who are also listening, it is very vital for us to make sure that we've got our eyes open to saying we are not there to pull on the other side as a patriarchal side versus the feminine side. We are there to make a community by availing an emotionally available man, so that they can be able to support the daughter, support the partner, and also support the niece and the boy child. Because for me, I think I'm going to say this again to you, Unati. I say to Amila, he just came now to see what I'm doing. He's 12. And then I asked him the other day, dude, how does it feel to have a father? You know, because I haven't seen it, right? And as such, boys who have not been, you know, mentored by their fathers, they can't see the end of something like commitment. They can't see themselves, kind of attributed to it, can't see themselves heading a family, because it is not there. It was not done for them. And then they sort of lock when that time comes. And then they start having these traits where now they are not coping, and then they try to run away from that. So I asked him, dude, how does it feel to have a father? And he says, no, dude, this is weird what you're asking me. And then I'm saying, but dude, I want to tell you, because I've never had a father. And therefore, now sometimes it becomes awkward to give you a hug when you are, you know, not feeling good about something, because then Tina will say, "Hi, you know, you shout at the boy who expresses pain, because our fathers didn't associate with it." So even for me, you know, it's something that I never, incorporated into my DNA of understanding society. So we then, with that looking, we're saying we are not going into a space where we are pulling to the other end of the stream as patriarchy, or the other end of the stream as feminism. We're bringing a man to have a holistic community going forward. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love this conversation, and I'm gonna get it to the end here. To our viewers, as you are watching, so much has been said here, and as you can see, we need to come back and unpack more of this, right? But what I'm taking from these speakers is men head the same way, or boy child heads the same way as a girl child. So we need to avail ourselves, be it the mothers, the fathers, the uncles, the aunts. We need to avail ourselves equally for these young boys and girls, because this is how we're going to form a winning society. This is how we're going to form winning leaders, because let's remember this, we are led by the very same men that are broken, these men we're talking about, right? This is truth. We come from all these broken backgrounds, and then these people lead. And not to say these men cannot lead, but the reality is the society is designed in the manner that it's men that are leading. There's very few women leaders. Germany is one of them, where it was a woman who was leading that country, and she did really well. Taiwan, but there's very few, especially in our African space. How many? I think there was only one or two, women presidents. So we need to start looking at boy child and the girl child, empowering them both. We had these speakers saying that we have been empowering a girl child for the longest time, which is fine, because for the longest time, a girl child has been sexually abused. And not to say boy child was not, but look at the genital mutilation. We need to come back actually and talk about that stuff. So for the longest time, we have been focusing on the girl child, but it's time for us to focus on the boy child too, because these boys will marry your girl children in future. And if we don't empower them, unfortunately, we're going to continue recycling the same men we have today in the society. So you had Khanyiso. He's doing amazing work in his community. I've been posting what they've been doing in the society and what they've been saying to us. Get in touch with them. And as we close, Khanyiso, I would like you to give my community here one or two words, and Vuyo afterwards, so that we can close.
As a closing statement from me, we as men, this is our chance, because I think now people are listening to us. In the past, we were always treated as, men should do this, man is supposed to, and no one really paid attention to us. I think now we are getting the platforms, we are getting people to listen to how we feel. And people now are accepting that we also feel. And I think now it's time for us to actually communicate how we feel, so that people can start treating us as feeling, people, and not as men must, men should, men don't, that kind of thing. So I think now we are getting to a point where people generally can actually pay attention to a man who's crying and say, hey, I'm feeling pain about this thing, without judging the man as being weak or anything. So I think it's time for us to stand up now and show how we should be treated as feeling beings too. And I think we are in the right way, because we are getting to open up. The men we deal with on a daily basis are showing it that, they are receptive, they are open, and it's time for us to listen to us, men. Thank you very much.
I loved it. Yes, you feel too, men feel too. Thank you so much, Khanyiso. Vuyo, let's do it and close our discussion.
I am very optimistic that the conversations are going to materialize. And we want to shift the culture and change narratives. And we are going to have a better space, and we're going to have all of the clinicians to come forward to say, listen, what do you guys in this social health activism spaces do? Tell us what we need to do. So we then are able to have the psychiatrists, the psychology, put them in a panel space where now men say, oh, we are ready. It's our season. Okay, everybody is coming, so I'm also going. So now we are no longer, in the next year, we need to be in a space where we are no longer afraid to. We need to now be surprised when someone is going to talk about mental health issues. We need to have a space where men say, I want to be emotionally available for my daughter, right? And men had, and that pain is not going to go away. So it's beautiful, Inati. Thank you so much for the work that you are putting through, man. And again, Khanyiso and Dr. Tabelele and Ukudveli, we are again that model that needs to start rolling, because Khanyiso is doing a lot of work as well. So I'm sure that with this time next year, we are going to be coming up with something that the government says, oh, okay, guys, take it because you know how to do it.
Yes. Thank you so much, guys. To our viewers, I want to thank you for staying with us. Do join us. If you are not part of our family here, please subscribe, share with your family, with your relatives, with your colleagues. This is a community where I bring such amazing people like these ones to come and share lived experiences and, of course, their expertise and what they're doing in their communities. This is how we learn. This is something you can model in your own country. I can see we have Kenya here, we have Botswana. This was just beautiful to see. And of course, there's also friends here from this side of the world. So I want to thank you for joining us. Every time we come here on Saturdays, it's 11 a.m. when we start here, MST, and 7 p.m. in South Africa. And check just your local time. There's so many time zones right now. So please check and join us. These communities, when we have these conversations, it's a ripple effect. Your grandmother, your grandfather who's out there in your village cannot access this information. So he or she relies on you, right? So spread the word and let's grow together. God bless. And again, to my guests here, thank you so much for your time. I know you're busy, but you created this time for me. I thank you. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.